If you're in the market for a new mid to large size SUV, you're probably thinking along the lines of Toyota Kluger or Hyundai Santa Fe. And those are both very good options. But today I'm going to tell you about a third option you absolutely should be considering. This car, the 2025 Skoda Kodiaq. And to tell you about all of its excellent features, I've come all the way to, well, if you just listen to the background noise, you can probably tell where I am. My name is Dan Gardner and you're watching Chasing Cars. And if you like this video, hit like and subscribe, and maybe even consider hitting the bell icon so you get notified every time an awesome review like this one goes live.
Chasing Cars, honest reviews of your next car.
Brought to you by
What's a Skoda? Good question. It's always been about being something different, but not for the sake of being different where it matters. And this car certainly carries on that tradition. On the outside, you've got some sharp styling that has a family resemblance to the previous Kodiaq, but with an all-new look. LED headlights, 20-inch wheels. This car and this brand is really for the deep thinkers, those who want something a little bit different and standing out from the crowd for all the right reasons. But I'm not going to talk about this car on the outside too much because, frankly, it's being upstaged by the German Alps today. So instead, let's have a look what this car offers on the inside. I've always been a little bit excited about Skoda interiors because, like the rest of the brand, they try to do things a little bit differently, and not just for the sake of being different, like maybe a French brand, but for the sake of actually being more functional without compromising on comfort. Let's look around this interior. I just love it. So we've got, for a start, some really nice materials on the dash here with this kind of cool, like almost steering wheel type stitching holding it all together. I'm pretty certain that's not real leather because that's a little bit politically incorrect these days, but it's a very good job of pretending to be. Then there's this other kind of almost looks like forged carbon fiber material as another trim. The quality of the seats is very nice indeed, and also typical to Skoda, they feel sporty, they're supportive, but on the drive out here about an hour and a half, very comfortable. Don't compromise anything on comfort. I've got a lovely panoramic roof above me. It's got a sort of light grey roof lining. I prefer something in the way of like dark to feel a bit more sporty, but perhaps we will leave that for the RS. Unconfirmed, but I have everything crossed. We will get an RS version because both petrol and diesels were awesome. Let's look at some of the technology we get in here. First of all, this humongous central screen. Over the previous version, that has grown enormously to 34 centimeters. We're metric here, not imperial, but we also get a full digital instrument cluster as well, which is slightly deceptive because it fills a space of 32 centimeters, but if you look closely, the border of that screen is actually slightly smaller, 26 centimeters, which is about 10.25 inches, the crew reliably informed me. But the resolution is beautiful. There's tons of features in there. We've got really good voice activated features. It's just clean and extremely well laid out. I also get a head-up display, which has got some really nice features into that I'll go into on the road. And as if that wasn't enough digital overload, I've also got these new brilliant little dials down here, which have their own little LCD screens in them. That's not the first time we've seen that in a vehicle, but what I will say is that is the nicest resolution and the smoothest function and operation I've ever seen in one of those little dials. In terms of practicality, I have heaps of storage. I've got these big door pockets. I've got huge amounts of space in the center console here with space for 4 cups or Red Bull cans or something like that. Wireless device charging down the middle there with more space, and I can cover it up to make it look clean and uncluttered in here. I've got 2 glove boxes. Well, I mean, probably one's a glove box and one's a box for something else, not just your gloves. Heaps of space, heaps of storage, practical, technological. This interior ticks all the boxes, just like I would expect the Skoda to. I love that they've held on to that point of difference in the market. Something else this car does is Skoda's Simply Clever features. Now, I've featured those before and I love them, so we're going to go over a couple of them right now. Simply Clever features are Skoda's thing, and they're beautiful little touches you'll find throughout the car that boost practicality, and they're not just gimmicks, you'll find them throughout day-to-day use and they're genuinely useful. Examples include this. This is an ice scraper that hides in behind the fuel flap. This is new for this model. It's actually a little screen cleaner, like a little bit of suede for cleaning those touch screens. And this, an umbrella in the driver's door. And these little pop-out guards that protect the edge of the door and stop you denting someone else's door in a car park. Life is just as good in the second row of seats as well, and I have heaps of space. As I know I'm a grown adult, I don't act like it, but I have the dimensions of one. Headroom, get out the reliable tape measure once again, is adequate at about 30 millimeters, but everywhere else we've got heaps of space. And if I sit closer to the middle, I've got that panoramic roof that gives me a bit more headroom as well. Loads of shoulder room. Knee room is abundant, and that's my driving position with the seat in front. Comfort is excellent. I've got my favorite feature, the center armrest with cup holders, but there's tons of practical features back here as well. You've got your own digital climate control display for the rear seat, a pair of USB-C inputs and charge ports. I've got a 12-volt power socket there. I've got a special little pocket for devices down there, and this clever little removable center console. So there's more practical features down there, but if you want just extra legroom for a passenger sat in the middle, because this is a 5-seater, you can remove that. So, box ticked in the second row. I absolutely love it. There's more great materials back here. It's not being compromised like the poor cousin back here because it's second row passengers. The same feeling of quality is endemic throughout the entire cabin, and I absolutely love it. If you hadn't already guessed from the jangling cowbells in the background and the simply stunning vistas in every direction, I am, of course, in the German Alps to test the new Kodiaq. Now, I know this car stems and originates in its heritage from Czech Republic, but there seems something very appropriate about bringing it to the German Alps, where I can really stretch its legs in these amazing rolling hills and some challenging roads as well. But let's start with the elephant in the room. What you probably can't quite hear, because it is a very refined and composed engine, is I actually have a diesel under the bonnet of this car. Now, for now, we are not getting one of those in Australia, which is a little bit disappointing because it's very good. It's a 2-litre 4-cylinder. It is extremely refined and produces really lovely torque characteristics and a pretty decent power balance as well, for what it's worth. But as I say, I'm not going to touch too much on that because I'm a little sad we're not getting. What we will get is a 2-litre turbocharged petrol. Aha, I hear you say. We had one of those in the previous Kodiaq. Well, yes, we did, but it's now been upgraded from the 132 TSI to the 140 TSI, which means we're now going to get 150 kilowatts. What does that feel like? I don't know, because as I say, this is a diesel, it's not a petrol. That's something we can look forward to when it arrives in Australia in Q2 of 2025, but there's still plenty to look at in this car. Completely revised for the 2025 version is the suspension. Now, I always thought the previous Kodiaq struck a really good balance of ride and handling, and I honestly didn't think it could be improved on as much as this version does, but it does. And the secret to that is it now gets the 15 setting adaptive dampers, which other products in the VW group and Skoda family have previously got, and it makes a wonderful difference. If I'm in the absolute softest mode, as I am now, it is just lovely. Perfect for a cruise around the Alps on some of Germany's finest roads. The one thing I have to say is German roads are infinitely better maintained than Australian. But when you find some of those sections which have copped some of the alpine damage, obviously get very severe winters here, and you do find a little bit of repair and damage, and this car handles them so nicely. But they'll then switch into a different driving mode. I then have a noticeably changed attitude to the suspension. Stiffer, firmer, more resistant to roll, but all the time, even in that really sportiest setting, it's still comfortable and really composed. The body control in this vehicle is absolutely excellent, but you're really not compromising much on comfort either. So that's a really big step up for this car. The only thing I really want to poke a bit of criticism at is this column mounted gear selector, which I probably would get used to, let's be honest, and you would too after about a week of living with this car, if not sooner. But to me, it just seems a little bit unintuitive. The good thing though is it means it has freed up lots of extra space down here, and there is abundant space. I've got tons of storage, as we were looking at before, and space everywhere actually, and the main reason for that is this car has grown in all directions except for the wheelbase. Now, the backseat legroom is perfectly fine. It didn't really have to get any longer, and the danger of it getting longer in the wheelbase would be you'd have an unwieldy car that might be harder to live with, and also you might take away some of that lovely handling characteristic, which of course is better with a shorter wheelbase. But in all other dimensions, height, width and length, this car is bigger, and it feels it in all the right ways. Now, with the sun falling across that digital display, I can even easier see the border of where the actual digital display finishes and the kind of no man's land around the outside begins. Now, some might look at that and think that seems like a bit of a cheap option, but to me what that says is there's room for expansion. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Kodiaq gets a much bigger, maybe 12 point something digital instrument cluster in the near future. But Now I'm at the helm, it's really fantastic to get used to these digital displays. They're intuitive and massive and bright on this sunny day. It really has lifted the whole interior of the Kodiaq. Along with those lovely quality interior materials, this vehicle feels properly premium. So I have to ask myself the question of, who is this model going for? Skoda was always a bit of an anomaly. People didn't really know what it stood for, and it used to be just outright value, which to some sort of says cheap, but it really isn't that anymore. This vehicle still offers a value proposition, but value in as much as you're getting a lot for the cash. So it really comes down to where this vehicle will be positioned in terms of its variants in Australia. It's still to be locked in, but the most likely scenario at the moment is there will be a 3 variant range: the select variant at the entry level, the sport line in the middle as per the existing lineup, and then an RS performance halo at the top. The RS is confirmed, but actually not officially confirmed for Australia at this stage, but I've got everything crossed because I love that kind of previous generation, including the diesel and the petrol. It was difficult to take your pick. But back to this one. So this will be arriving in 2 variants to begin with. Pricing is yet to be confirmed also, but my guess would be it'll land around about the sort of 55k mark, which would align it with the existing range, which starts at about 53 at the moment. In practice, all of these functions on the dash down here work so nicely, and those little LCD dials I was talking about before are really nice to use. They actually work beautifully, and this one in the middle, if I hit that and actually press it, it changes its function, so I can scroll through. So it's a multi-function smart dial, so it has more than one purpose, as do the exterior ones as well. They're the interior temperature at the moment, climate control, but if I press it, it goes to the heated seat menu. So again, multi-purpose, keeps the whole dashboard looking tidy and organized and uncluttered. And that really is the thing that is so special about this interior, is it's sophisticated and sharp, but not uncluttered. And that's really what Skoda's always done so well. And what's even more surprising about this particular vehicle, albeit not completely Australian specification, is I'm told that most of what you see is what you get. Skoda's approach is to spec their vehicles highly and then add supplementary packages if that's not quite enough kit for you. But for me, if this is a standard trim entry-level Kodiaq, then you are getting an awful lot for your money. Now, I might not have a high revving petrol engine under the bonnet to fully enjoy what this Kodiaq can do, but I do have that revised suspension and those 15 setting adaptive dampers, and my first impressions are really excellent. The Kodiaq has always been one of those SUVs that is a bit of a wolf in sheep's clothing, especially the RS, but all trims offer a really involving, engaging ride and handling package. Really nice steering, handling and ride that's not going to punish you even when cruising, but also rewarding when you get into the more exciting roads. And exciting roads do not come much more spectacular than these. The views in all directions are just stunning. If driver distraction is a main cause of accidents on our road, then these roads in Germany's Alps should be some of the most dangerous in the world. Oh, and right on cue, a forward collision warning, which was not required, I might add. In this part of the world, you can have a Kodiaq with a 5-seat or 7-seat configuration. In Australia, we will be getting only the 7-seat version, which I think is great news, because for the little bit of boot space it sacrifices, the added level of versatility and the option to be able to carry some more humans on board is probably going to appeal to a majority of Australian buyers. I've always been a fan of the Skoda Kodiaq. I really like how it does something a little bit different. It looks sporty and feels correspondingly sporty. It's right-sized, somewhere between mid and large SUV, manages to fit in a load of features and practical and also sporty stuff, and slipping into the new generation version on its kind of native home territory, I'm pleased to say that Skoda has taken it forward another level again. The ride and handling is just beautiful. This deserves to be called a proper sporty SUV. I believe the 2-litre petrol engine will be a nice progression from the 132 TSI that we already have, and that package of offering a lot of standard equipment for entry-level cash is going to be really appealing, which is why I'm frustrated more people don't consider a vehicle like this. The Skoda brand stands for unique and different, but not for the sake of being different. It's actually a compelling package that you can really get involved with. It does different, but not for the sake of being different. It does different because it wants to make things better. And examples of that include the simply clever features that we looked at before, and this lovely styling and design. And then also a focus on offering something that's fun to drive, but also practical and comfortable. I've always been a fan of the Skoda Kodiaq. I love that first generation. It managed to be sporty and practical and fun. And I'm very happy to say that the new version continues to do exactly that, but just takes it on a level. If you want to stand out from the crowd in a large 7-seat SUV for all the right reasons, the Skoda Kodiaq is well worth a look. For this generation, the technology levels have really been lifted as well. I really love this huge central touch screen. I love the way it's sort of been positioned, just delicately sat on top of the dashboard. It sort of has a feel of a big home theatre system. But there's loads of really good features in here. When this car comes to Australia, we'll have a bit more of a deep dive, because then we'll have something that's far more specific to our home market. But there's one feature which has now been included, which I really like. A lot of vehicles have really good spoken instruction voice controls, and Skoda has got its own iteration called Laura. Hey Laura, I'm hot.
Sure, it will get cooler shortly.
Funny sounding Laura. Background.
No problem.
Laura is so helpful. I wish everyone was helpful as Laura. Hey Laura, I'm lost.
Sorry, I couldn't find an address for your current location.
Oh. Alright, well, if I'm never seen again, this car reviewer was last seen somewhere in the German Alps, having a great time. It's fun, it's really good fun. It might have got a little bit bigger, but it still feels really light on its heels. You could really underestimate this car. There's tons of feel in the steering, there's plenty of grip from all-wheel drive. Even with that diesel engine, I've got enough shove to make some meaningful progress. It's genuinely an absolute hoot. I love this thing. I've got paddle shifters if I want to get involved with the gear changes, but honestly that transmission is doing a really decent job. I'm just flowing along with all these maniac bikers on this beautiful road and having a smashing time, thank you very much. If you've liked this video, hit like and subscribe, and maybe hit the bell icon as well so you get told every time a slightly questionable review goes live like this one. Thanks for watching Chasing Cars!